A flickering television screen glows in the dark. A strange hum fills the room. Suddenly, a pirate signal hijacks the entire broadcast, blocking out the engineers. This is not a technical glitch. Someone has seized control of local television stations. Engineers in high-tech control rooms are completely helpless. Their dials spin uselessly. For several moments, the official broadcast is dead. It is replaced by a surreal nightmare. A bizarre figure appears. It wears dark sunglasses. The face belongs to a popular television character, but the voice is not right. What the public is witnessing is an unexpected act of electronic piracy. For the lead investigator from the Federal Communications Commission, this intrusion was a profound challenge to his entire professional community. He was tasked with securing the airwaves. Now, he had to find a ghost hiding among his own colleagues. To understand how the signal first broke through, we go back to a cold Sunday night. A city sits in front of their screens, completely unaware of the coming breach. The trust between the viewer and the broadcaster is about to be shattered. The lead investigator knew the technical demands of such an attack. The hijackers possessed a level of skill that only a few trained engineers could boast. This realization forced him into a painful position. To solve the crime, he would have to look at his own peers with deep suspicion. This tension would define the entire inquiry. It is Sunday, November 22nd, 1987. At 9:14 p.m., sports fans in Chicago are watching the evening news. They are gathered around their sets after a long weekend. The local sports anchor is discussing a football game. The Chicago Bears have just defeated the Detroit Lions. It is a moment of local celebration. Without warning, the screen goes black. A loud, high-pitched buzz fills the air. The image of a swaying figure wearing a plastic mask fills the screen. A corrugated piece of metal rotates behind the intruder. The figure says nothing. There is only the deafening, static hum. At the studio, engineers scramble to regain control. The tension in the master control room is thick. Operators freeze, staring at their monitors in disbelief. They manually switch the transmitter path to an alternate line. The bizarre intrusion lasts exactly 28 seconds before the sports anchor reappears. He is visibly confused. He apologizes to the viewers for the sudden disruption. The station believes the danger has passed. They are wrong. The hijackers are only getting warmed up. Federal records show that investigators immediately began analyzing this first brief attack. They studied the 28 seconds of tape, looking for any clue. The lead investigator knew that this brief breach was highly sophisticated. It demonstrated a precise understanding of the station's engineering setups. He realized the perpetrator had bypassed complex security systems without ever entering the building. 2 hours pass. At 11:15 p.m., viewers are tuned to a public broadcasting station. They are watching a popular British science fiction serial about a dark lighthouse. Families sit closely in the quiet night. Suddenly, the lighthouse disappears. The same masked figure bursts onto the screen. This time, the signal is much stronger. The audio is no longer just static. A distorted, crackling voice begins to speak. The intruder laughs maniacally. He references commercial slogans. He hums old cartoon theme songs. He even mocks a popular local sports broadcaster by name. This broadcaster was a trusted voice in Chicago homes. To see him mocked by a faceless entity feels deeply personal. The public station has a major vulnerability. Unlike the commercial network, their transmitter tower is completely unmanned at night. Staff at the main studio try to block the signal. They fail. The hijackers control the airwaves for 90 seconds. Thousands of families watch the bizarre performance in their living rooms. It is a complete technical capture. The lead investigator received the report shortly after. He recognized the sheer audacity of this second wave. The hijackers had exploited a known weakness in the public station's overnight operations. They had broadcasted uninterrupted, mocking the very authorities tasked with keeping the airwaves secure. How does someone hijack a television station? In 1987, the process requires immense technical skill. The television station sends its signal from the studio to a giant transmitter tower. This path is called a studio-to-transmitter link. To override this link, the hijacker must send a stronger signal to the same receiver. It is a battle of raw power. The physical towers are highly secure landmarks. Federal investigators inspect the facilities the next day. The John Hancock Center and the Sears Tower are secure. Every heavy lock is intact. There are no signs of physical entry. This proves the intrusion was executed entirely through radio waves. The hijackers did not need to step inside the buildings. Instead, they positioned a mobile transmitter on a high elevation. They needed a direct line of sight to the receiver antennas. This setup required deep engineering knowledge. The plan was calculated. It was executed with technical precision. The lead investigator spent hours reviewing the physical layout of these towers. He had to accept a difficult reality. The culprit was highly familiar with local broadcast infrastructure. They knew the exact frequencies. They knew the precise locations of the receiving dishes. This was not a random act of vandalism, it was the work of an expert. The equipment required for this operation was not cheap. Government experts estimate the setup cost between $10,000 and $25,000 in 1987. That is a fortune for a simple prank. The gear included a portable link transmitter and a high-gain microwave dish antenna. It also required a heavy-duty generator to power the transmitter. This was not the work of a casual hobbyist. The physical evidence is slim. The mask worn by the intruder was a mass-produced vinyl item. It was sold nationwide during the recent Halloween seasons. This makes tracing the purchase almost impossible. However, investigators did find one vital clue in the audio. Acoustic analysis reveals a distinct room echo. The pre-recorded video was not made outdoors. It was likely taped inside a large, empty concrete space. Experts suggest a warehouse, a basement, or a garage. The hijackers had a secret studio. They worked in the shadows. The lead investigator studied these acoustic reports deeply. He coordinated with federal audio experts, trying to isolate any background noise. They searched for clues in the hum of the transmitter and the echo of the concrete room. Yet, the physical location of the recording studio remained completely hidden. We turn now to the strangest detail of the second broadcast. This was entirely left out of the shorter public reports. The intruder's performance becomes increasingly chaotic near the end. He screams that they are coming to get him. He claims his files are dirty. The cameras shift. Suddenly, the camera angle shifts. The masked figure is no longer standing. He is bent over, exposing his bare buttocks to the camera. Unidentified accomplice appears on the screen. The accomplice is wearing a dress or a wig. This second figure holds a fly swatter. The accomplice begins to spank the masked figure repeatedly. The hijacker screams in mock agony as the video cuts to black. This bizarre display baffled federal investigators. Was it a coded message, or simply crude performance art? The absurdity of the act contrasted sharply with the high-tech execution. It remains a deeply unsettling anomaly. The viewers at home were left staring at static, questioning what they had just seen. The lead investigator and his team analyzed this footage frame by frame. They hoped to identify the accomplice or find a recognizable object in the background. But the low-resolution video offered no clear faces, only shadows and plastic. Who possessed the skills to pull this off? The first theory points to the local hacker and phone phreaker community. In the late 1980s, Chicago was a hub for early computer networks. Independent researchers spent years investigating a pair of brothers. These siblings were active in local bulletin board systems. They possessed the technical knowledge and the eccentric sense of humor. However, the federal authorities never filed charges. Other hackers from the era deny their involvement. The second theory suggests an inside job. Perhaps a disgruntled broadcast employee was seeking revenge. Both stations audited their current and recently fired engineering staff. No suspects were found. The lead investigator had to oversee these audits, examining the credentials of local technicians. This process cast a shadow over the tight-knit broadcasting community. It meant looking at fellow professionals as potential federal felons. The third theory views the event as a piece of radical media art. It was an act of culture jamming. But the law saw only a federal felony. No group ever stepped forward to claim credit, leaving only theories in their wake. The Federal Communications Commission took the threat very seriously. On the night of the intrusion, their regional office received over 100 calls. Terrified and confused viewers demanded answers. The Federal Bureau of Investigation formally entered the case 2 days later. They investigated the incident as a malicious interference with government-licensed systems. Engineers mapped the potential signal paths across the Chicago skyline. They analyzed the physical landscape. Yet, Every lead went cold. The trail vanished into the airwaves. The statute of limitations for this federal offense was 5 years. That window closed quietly in November 1992. No active law enforcement agency is currently investigating the hijacking today. The files are archived. The identities of the masked figure and the accomplice remain officially unknown. The signals have faded into history. What remains are the technical logs and the static recordings. The lead investigator completed his inquiry without making any arrests. The case was filed away, a silent testament to a brief moment of complete broadcast vulnerability. The airwaves are silent now, but the echo remains. The hijackers proved that our most secure screens are vulnerable. They seized control, laughed at the world, and vanished. They left only static. The intrusion violated the trust between the viewer and the screen. It proved that the voices we welcome into our homes can be replaced by strangers. For the lead investigator, the investigation left a lasting professional impact. He had been forced to suspect the very engineering community he was sworn to protect. That tension between security and suspicion remained a defining chapter of his career. The people who built the system had to be treated as the prime suspects. Was this a highly funded prank by industry insiders, or a brilliant hack by rogue outsiders? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. Next on Unsolved Echoes, the mysterious radio signal from space that was never heard again.